So I would like to show two more games from this book, Neil MacDonald, Coach Yourself, because in any case I do believe that it's important that we get exposed to the material that this Grandmaster is trying to teach us. And of course, I hope that showing these games will make you try to work on your chess and buy the book and improve, okay? So the next game that we are watching is Stellwagen against Timofev at Khanty-Mansiysk, the Olympiad of 2010. E4, C5, Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop B5, D6, Castle, Bishop D7, Rook E1, Knight F6, C3, A6, Bishop A4, B5, Bishop C2, Bishop G4, D3, E6, Knight B, D2, D5. This is a kind of interesting move, right? Because imagine the king is still in the center and yet black gives the possibility to open the lines. But who knows what it means, right? H3, Bishop H5, A4, Bishop E7, A takes B5, A takes B5. Rook takes A8, Queen takes A8. Knight F1, Castle, Knight G3, Bishop takes F3, and the Queen takes F3. And here there is a diagram. As I mentioned before, when there is a diagram, you should pause and ask yourself some questions, right, about the position. In this case, the Grandmaster Neil MacDonald asks you, before reading on, you might like to take the chance to assess the position. What is the best way for black to resolve the pawn structure in the center? So, how do you solve the pawn structure in the center? Are you going to take? Are you going to play this? Are you going to play this? What are you going to do? So the answer by black was d4. Timofev blocks the center and leaves the bishop on c2 shut, behind its own pawn on d3. Here is a possible assessment. Black's queenside pawn are doing something. They are mobile and can strike at white's structure. In contrast, white has a space advantage on the king side. So you'd expect him to create counterplay there, but his pawns are doing nothing. We might also mention that the white knight is poorly placed on g3, where it neither attacks nor defends anything. Queen d1, the queen retreats to bolster the queen side and clear the way for a future f2, f4 to get white's own pawns working. Rook d8, an excellent square for the rook, as it is in the middle of a strategic fight that follows. And here there is bishop d2. Okay? Now there is another diagram, so you can pause the video after I ask you the question. How does black get maximum value from his pressure in the center? So this is pressure, no? When you have a pawn that is attacking something, is setting pressure. The answer is d takes c3. Black's control of a d4 square means that it doesn't need to maintain a pawn there to keep the bishop on c2 passive. So black is controlling this square and keeps this bishop passive because this cannot move. Therefore he can set about accruing other positional advantages. B takes c3. Instead, this move, bishop takes e3, leaves a big hole in white center on d4. Besides, the direct c4 to exploit the pin on d3 looks dangerous. So that's why white played this, okay? And of course now black continue, right? When you have a kind of majority on one side of the board, you try to create a pass pawn. b4. White's pawn on c3 comes under attack as it is leading his resistance on the critical d4 square. Queen c1. And here it says that after c4, white is left with a backfoot pawn on d3 and a horrendous hole on d4. Meanwhile, black has a protected pass pawn on b4. Okay, and here there is another thing. It says if you take and black take, this leaves black with a strong pass pawn and control of d4, as well as the c5 square for his bishop. Despite the exchange on b4, white's bishop on c2 remains a wretched piece. Indeed, things have grown worse for it, as the opening of lines means it will eventually fall under attack. So let's go back. We were here, I think, right? And he played this move before, right? No, sorry. Yes, he played before, but this was here, and the queen was moved on c1. Okay, so we were analyzing all the possible moves, that could have happened but didn't help, and so that's why white played queen c1. As you can see, with the books there is a problem, because here we are watching the game from the black side. Why from black side? Because it's the guy that is winning, so we should watch the game from the black side to understand it. Instead, most books they have always all the diagrams oriented from the white side, independently if they are asking you to think, like in this case, for the black side. Okay? So the first thing we should ask publisher is to orient the diagrams from the right side when they want us to learn something about the black side. The second thing which could be useful also would be to have the letters and the numbers, okay, A, B, C, D, F, and so on, because this would probably help also young chess players that don't know the notation, right? So that's a better thing. I think that should be done to improve the books in general, okay? So after queen c1, black played knight d7 with a strong threat of knight d e5 when d3 is under intense pressure. Note that black doesn't exchange with 21 b takes c3, so black doesn't want to play this move because this is where player go wrong, he says. Let's see it on the chessboard. B takes c3, bishop takes c3, and now you play right away knight d4, right? He says, this is where many players go wrong. In such situation, you have to keep the tension. Rushing to put the knight on the beautiful d4 square throws away most of black's advantage. The exchange 21 b takes c3 has uncluttered white's position, and 22 knight d4 makes the d3 pawn safer, because it's not attacked, right, than it should be, as it's shielded by black's own knight. Another important consideration is that Timofev keeps the option of a postpawn on the b file, which vanishes after exchange. Okay, so you don't want to exchange because this is a pass pawn. If you exchange, you don't have it anymore, right? If he takes, you take, and you still have a pass pawn. So not only you need to understand the idea of tension, but you need to understand the idea that you want to get the d4 outpost at the right moment. At the right moment. It's kind of that saying that says the threat is stronger than the execution. This is it. Okay, so let's go back. Knight d7, f4. Not an attacking move, rather a defensive measure to keep black's knight out of e5. So he doesn't want black to play on e5. Bishop h4, further disruption to the coordination of the white pieces. Rook e3, played in order to unpin the knight and allow it to return to the center. Nonetheless, stouter resistance was possible with, and try to guess, obviously it was king h2, okay? Okay, so now after rook e3, black plays what? Try to see what you would play in this position. Black played queen a3. With a white rook enticed to e3, the way is open for black to break through on the queen side. Now, if white takes on a3, b takes a3, and practically black has a very near pass pawn. He makes rook b8, a2, and rook b1, and he has a queen, okay? So that's why you cannot take on a3. Knight e2, rook a8, and queen d1. Here there is a diagram, and the author asks, which piece is holding together white's resistance? So what should we do? So you need to understand which piece in white's formation is the one that is preventing from getting this pawn there. Once you remove it, the pawn go forward and you win the game, right? So let's see. The move is queen a1. The exchange of queens soon decides the game. King h2, queen takes d1, bishop takes d1, rook a1, bishop b3, knight a5. Things have grown even worse for white's bishop than being shut out of the game. Now it's under direct attack, and its removal will clear the way for the pass b pawn to run through. Bishop c4, knight takes c4, d takes c4, b3, bishop c1, and now can you see the final move of the game? Because after this move, obviously white resigned, and this is the difference when you play against a computer. A computer never resign because they are not really AI, artificial intelligence. They are kind of stupid. A human being immediately resign because he knows that he cannot win, right? So the move is rook take c1. Why? Because knight takes c1, b2, and how do you stop this? How do you stop that? So here the author says, notice how Timofev increases positional advantage step by step. First he shut in the white bishop on c2, then he put pressure on the d4 square, but he didn't rush to get a knight on d4. Instead, he maneuvered to penetrate with his queen and rook on the queen side, after forcing up white a little bit more with bishop h4. This is also called the two weaknesses. There was a weakness on this side. He created a little more of a standout here, and then he finished over there. Okay, white was rated 2635, black 2690 at the time. Ask yourself which of black moves you might have found, which ones would have been beyond your comprehension at the moment. How might you have been sidetracked or mess up the win? Be honest with yourself. So he's asking you to watch this game, see what you have guessed right, what you have guessed wrong, and try to be honest with yourself, because that should help you to understand who you are as a chess player and how to improve. Now I will show the last game from this book, okay? And I hope this review gives justice to the book.